free Golden Eagles for War Thunder. Download the app in the description below. Hey guys, welcome back to War Thunder and welcome to a video that is going to be made entirely in the hangar of War Thunder. From start to finish, no gameplay in this one. I do apologize in advance. If you were looking for something more action kill-worthy, please do come around back on Wednesday and I'll have something uploaded just for you. But we have to take a trip down memory lane. It's December, it's been an entire year since certain very important events took place, and it's been an entire journey, really, from start to finish, and we're really closing in towards the end of 2016 as a very successful end of the year, from very different points of views. Now, a year ago, I uploaded a video titled quite literally Why I Don't Play Tanks, and I went on about why I didn't like team killers and the ULQ quality of the game. All really, it was just me not being comfortable with the way the game worked. I played tanks, I had most of them researched, I even had some of them spaded, but I didn't have my own playstyle. You see, with aircraft, I've been playing for so many years that really I can adapt any playstyle I want, and primarily the defensive flying after being very aggressive at the start of the match really works out quite well. But with tanks, it was a different story. You need to know how armor values work, you need to know how to angle, you need to know your opponents, you need to know how shell types work, and I had none of that. But then I entered this stage where I was doing the commentating for the Thunder League Season 1, the esports tournament, and I realized that I'm making a commentary on tanks being played by very good players, and yet I'm not really one of them. I wasn't even close. I wasn't close to their caliber, so most of the stuff that I was talking about was more or less just speculations, assumptions. It was far-fetched from what my experience in the game and the tactics was. So I thought I have to change something, I have to do something different, so I jumped into tank battles a lot more often throughout the start of 2016. I was playing a lot of tanks throughout January and February, and started testing out different tanks, so from light tanks to tank destroyers to heavy tanks, and I started also grinding through to unlock all of them. And whilst doing all of that, I was trying to develop my own playstyle. And lo and behold, at about the time that I started streaming very seriously, that was back in March, where I also got my my subscription button, my partnership with Twitch. It was about the time where I really started getting into tanks. I had developed my playstyle, I had felt very comfortable with it, and I realized that this was the way I wanted to go. And that is when an old goal of mine sort of reincarnated itself, and I had to do it. You see, I'm a perfectionist, but I'm also a completionist. I first fell in love with a video game, as in played it for a long period of time. That was RuneScape. And those of you who know RuneScape know that the game is very grindy. It's very, level this, level that. The reward of it wasn't fun. It was the idea that you had accomplished something through raw will and power and perseverance. And that's why I really like the idea of War Thunder having this grind aspect. I know a lot of you guys don't like grinding, but for me, grinding has that little bit of an extra edge on the way the game works and the way I perceive it. And so I set out the goal to spade every vehicle in the game. Now, prior to this, it was just aircraft, and I actually came quite close to spading all of the aircraft. Primarily all the fighters were done, all the main stuff was done, only a couple of bombers remaining, and with bombers it's really a rinse and repeat. So I was doing that, and whilst I was spading bombers, I was, going through tanks. And then a couple of things happened. Obviously, I started playing tanks a lot more, and the past 6 months, on live streams especially, has been completely filled with tank content. In addition to that, a couple of months ago, I think just 2 months ago now, we had the 4-year anniversary for War Thunder, and with 50% off on talismans, I went a little bit ham. I purchased 30 talismans on all the top tier tanks I had not yet spaded. There's also the fact that tanks went through an additional crew replenishment module, which meant that every single tank I had already spaded had to be respaded. A very big annoyance, but I got through it. And here we are to present to you now, in very early December of 2016, just before the year ends, and we'll show you just how far I've managed to get within a year's time. This is progress made within the past year. To start things off with aircraft, the one you're seeing right here, the F9F Cougar, is only one of 3 planes I have yet to spade, and it only has 3 upgrades left. That's not going to take too long at all. The other one is the LA-174 that I really don't like with the current performance of guns, but even in ground forces, this thing can be used quite extensively as just a strafing machine, and only 2 upgrades remaining should be done in a couple of weeks. And the last plane is well, happily enough, the P1Y1 Japanese bomber added in the last patch, so it's not going to take too long to spade, and is also going to be the last remaining plane in the Japanese tech tree. With any other aircraft, whether it's British or German, those have been done already, so only 3 planes remaining in the spading process. With tanks, of course, the story is a little bit different. Now, since there are no Japanese tanks, we can skip those for now, but as mentioned, yes, the spading process will never be completed, but we'll touch on that towards the end of the video. With American tanks, I've got only 5 left. The M60A1, the M56 Scorpion, the M48A1, the M103, and the M163. A lot of M's in there, but what's convenient is that all of these, with the exception of the Vulcan, the newly added SPAA, are in their last stage of spading, which means only the last level, the Tier 4 level of upgrades remain, so those are not going to take too long to spade, and since they're all more or less top tier vehicles, or at least capable of performing in top tier, we're not going to have too much of a hassle spading them. Moving on to the German tech tree, I'm actually done here completely with all tanks up to and including Tier 4, so only Tier 5 remains. Now, there's a couple of annoying things here, like the Raketnik Panzer II, currently a bit broken. Those of you who watch my video on it will realize that the rockets have absolutely no depression or elevation, that it's very hard to control, but in the worst case scenario, there's always a couple of golds that you can spend on it to get it spaded, but the rest of them are going to be an absolute breeze, as German tanks are fantastic. Moving on to Russians. Russians have been the biggest pain, especially going through the tank destroyer line, the SU and the ISU series. Very slow, very sluggish, you know, decent guns, but slow reload, very boxy, easy to kill, and hopefully they don't add anything else in the near future, because I really don't want to go through the same experience again. But I do have one tank at Tier 4, the ASU-85, and the rest of them really are just easy to spade, especially against Leos, of course. APHE shells are not going to have much of a problem, so only a handful left in the Russian tech tree, and we'll be done by that very, very soon. But I think the most important progress I've made has been in the British tech tree. The British tech tree was the one that I had purchased, and this is something that I do have to say openly. When the British tech tree was announced, I had purchased every single tank with Golden Eagles. Rather, I didn't play them, I just bought my way through so I would be able to review all the top tier vehicles. I never really did, because I didn't like the tanks at the time. So going through the spading process was a bit of a renewal, because it was the only tech tree that was entirely unspaded, and I went through Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, all in the past month and a half. That was a lot of grinding, a lot of pain, but to a certain extent there was a couple of vehicles here I really enjoyed, a couple that I really didn't, but that's how it is with every tech tree in the game. I'm currently stuck at Tier 4. I am up-tiering the Challenger and the Charioteer, which are the last remaining tanks I have yet to spade that don't have a talisman on, but as you can see, the remainder, all of them are talismaned and are going to be an absolute ease to get spaded. Perhaps the only downfall are these newly added SPAAs. Obviously, SPAAs take a very long time to spade. There's not a lot of aircraft really in ground forces that you'd be able to get consistent RP, but, well, if not for else, there's just time that really divides me from being able to accomplish the ultimate goal. And with all that said, I've gained a bit of an inside view of just which tanks are absolutely favourable. There's a couple of vehicles in this game that I have to say are an absolute joy to play as soon as you get them out of their stock performance and as soon as you find an adequate playstyle for them to partake. And with that said, there's going to be a lot more tank content, but also a lot more of an insight from me on just which tanks perform good against which other tanks. I've learned so much, I've experienced so much, there's really barely anything left in the game that I have yet to experience. So there is some content that I'm planning to make in the near future, but I'm not going to make any assessment of it. I'm just going to make it when time is right, so you'll know when it happens. And with that said, I think one of the main questions from people is going to be why? What's the point of this? What's the point of going and spading every single vehicle? About playing through certain tanks and certain planes that are extremely bad, that just simply don't have a playstyle? And the answer is completionism. The idea that you did that yourself, the idea that you don't have a press account, that you haven't been gifted this, but you worked on it yourself, and there's some kind of an aura about it. There's this feel that simply can't be explained in normal words. For me, I've always been a competitive person. I absolutely adore the idea of grinding, and for me this really does represent the ultimate goal. Of course, most of you have pointed this out already, and I have to agree with it. It is not an accomplishable goal, at least not indefinitely. With every patch, new vehicles come out. We are looking currently at the addition of Japanese tanks as well as boats, so If not else, I will not be able to continue spading everything with the same pace. But that's why I've been working so hard now. Because if I can get through to the current remainder of vehicles that have been added into the game and just start, hammering at those that get added newly, I will have a much easier job at keeping this goal alive rather than just always trying to achieve it and never ultimately getting there. So as, the end of the year creeps ever so closer, so do I with my ultimate goal. And perhaps I someday will have it completed, if even just for one patch. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed this little bit of a different video. If not for else, I'll come back with more gameplay on Wednesday and of course then on Friday. I've got a couple of video projects and a couple of different projects in mind. Obviously those of you who have been looking at the lackluster of video uploads, I do apologize about that. I've been sick for the past week and a half. If you want to know more about that, please do follow me on Snapchat and Twitter. I do keep you posted in what my health condition is, if nothing else. But if nothing else, also I do stream 3 times a week, so Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays from 7 to 10 PM Central European Time. Anyway guys, my voice is already cracking out. I have to get some sleep. It's a long week ahead of us, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Ultimate goal set aside. We're almost there, and hopefully soon TM. Take care and safe flying.